Well, I was not expecting to make another buff breakdown this fast. Yeah, it wasn't even that long since the last one. I thought the next one was going to be next week with the LB3 recap, and again, expect one to come out then as well. But with this Grail Front event, or mini event, we got some new buffs again, much like in the previous ones, and got a lot of Sakura faces. Not one, not two, not three, but four. Yeah, it's four. Now, I have to say, a bit of mixed feelings from me this time around. One, I'm really sad they didn't buff my waifu Jinako. I feel absolutely scammed because they featured her in like all the teasers and everything. Two, she has a banner right now. None of these buffed servants even have raid ups or ways to get them right now. And yeah, and I think Jinako could have honestly used the buff as well. But oh well, now I'm just gonna inhale that LB4 copium, the recap thing, I guess. So who knows? Now, reason number two why I have some mixed feelings about this is that some of these buffs, I'm not so sure about them. Now, obviously, all of these servants that got buffed are just better now. That's a given. None of them got worse by any means. They're only helping them. But I have to say, some of them, I don't really feel too much. Now, obviously, we'll cover the tier list parts and etc. as well, if I want to see, if I'm going to change any of the placements, etc. But first of all, of course, we are going to take a look at the buffs. Now, as you can see, the first one we have on the menu is good old BB, not even the summer version, which I guess some people want to see her buffed as well. Who knows, maybe someday. But yeah, it's the good old welfare, receiving a buff to the third skill. So let's just immediately take a look at his. So what do we got? First of all, it was she just had a self mod basically, right? EX rank, 5-turn cooldown, solid uptime on the crit damage and absorb. I always said that a self mod like this is always a pretty solid crit skill on its own, right? Nothing wrong with it, definitely above average. So it wasn't even a bad skill to begin with. But now, after the buff, oh boy, it's kind of nuts. First of all, the old stuff is unchanged, by the way, but they now added up to 30% arts up for 3 turns on herself, which again, that's another 3-turn effect on a 5-turn cooldown. That's kind of nuts. And her arts cards aren't even bad. They're actually alright, which is nice. And they added a second new thing, and this is a very unique and interesting one. So, for 3 turns, if you use your extra attack, every time you use it in this 3 turns, you get this buff. You charge the party by 10% MP. Yeah, the whole party, not just her, everyone. Very, very interesting. So now, as a whole, this skill is absolutely nuts on its own. Like, just as a one skill, it is really good, really good. A lot of other servants would like to see this as well, because it's still mostly a DPS skill, let's be real. Now, a few pointers. I still don't think Welfare BB will be like an amazing DPS by any means. She's still gonna deal okay damage, especially if you have the supports to go with her, like Astoria, etc. But I still feel like she's mostly there for like a sub DPS utility kind of role, and she does that fine. Now, if you do fight Avengers, obviously, which again, we maybe fight them twice a year, more or less, so don't expect that to be a common thing, then she can be a real crazy good DPS as well. But sadly, that doesn't happen a lot, because, you know, Avengers are rare. Now, as for the extra attack thing, I do like it. And something to worth noting is that her MP, if you've ever used BB, especially with Castoria setups, her MP tends to be very spammable, because let's be real, or let me give you a reminder, the MP also just flat out refunds 20%, and also charges your party by the same 20 when you use it, which is really strong. And on top of that, now that she has an arts buff as well, and again, supports can help, she can absolutely use her MP often. Now, what I mean by this is why it ties in great with this is obviously your MP card, when you use it, it's a card, right? So it makes you getting a Brave Chain for BB that much easier. You don't have to get 3 cards from a shuffle, right? You don't have to get that. You can use your MP as the starter card, making it so much easier to get more value out of this extra attack that now works as a team battery as well. So that's something worth noting for sure. So overall, I think this is one of the more exciting buffs, if not just the most exciting of them all today. Mostly because, you know, I like when they try out new stuff. There's hardly anything like this with like extra synergy. There's not much to go with stuff like this, so I'm kind of okay with it. I think it's pretty cool, but mostly it's nice for the arts buff, if anything. Just very solid. Now, again, sorry for the tier list missing a lot of servants, because this one wasn't cached again. But yeah, this is where I had BB placed when I did the tier lists a few months back, before this buff happened, obviously. And I did think about this a little bit, I suppose. But I'm not sure if I should still bump her, because again, here's the thing. BB probably still doesn't see the most picks out there, because Moon Cancer as a class is just not that great, in my opinion. And again, the best case use for them is versus Avengers, but they're so insanely rare. I did think about the bump. I am very close to just still keeping her in A, but I might be willing to give her the bump anyway. But I don't think she's gonna be like a crazy good, like still, like, definitely not broken or anything. But she's definitely, it's like maybe the lowest of the A pluses I can offer her, but I could totally see her still being in the same tier as I left her. It's not gonna have the biggest difference ever, but it's just a nice buff to have, right? So, I don't know. It could be either way, to be honest. Maybe I'll put more thought into this next year if I revisit the tier lists again, but I think I am willing to drop her in A+ for now. But keep in mind, she still probably is not the easiest thing to use. Like, you might have better options anyway. But hey, welfare is nice, free MP5 and all that, so yeah. We'll see. So there's BB's buff. Pretty good. Pretty good. I like that they're trying out new gimmicks as well. Now, the melt buff is the next one. Okay, so this is the one that I think is the most disappointing one. It's just, well, I might as well show it to you first, you know. They buffed her first skill, which is the dodge and the crit stars one. So everything remains the same, but now it comes with an up to 30% battery. Like, you know, again, I usually don't mind if they do like these battery buffs, which they seem to favor a lot these days, but I think this was just super lazy. Like, they could have done a lot of different things with Melt as well. Not to mention, she didn't even necessarily need any more buffs. Like, Melt has been super solid as is. She's not broken, but she was never bad. But this buff, I don't really know. I don't know, man. I don't really feel it that much. Obviously, it's just a good thing. She's just better with this. I mean, yeah, for sure, but I don't know. Yeah, I feel like the only reason this buff happened is because they wanted to do a group buff of SAKURAFACES. And they were like, what are we gonna do with Melt? We don't want to buff her MP, because that would be OP. Which is honestly the best buff she could receive, the MP buff. So they decided on a compromise, I guess. And I think this is why that buff happened. Or that's why this buff happened, rather. Yeah, just weird. Just really weird as a buff. And again, it's good to have it, but in this case, looking at the tier list, I had Melt on A+, which is still very solid. I don't think I'm gonna change her placement, honestly. I don't think I'll change it. I was thinking maybe I could do a compromise for A++, but no, I don't think so. I still think I'm gonna keep her in A+. Yeah, I mean, again, she's better, but I don't think it's a big difference maker, honestly. Just a kind of an awkward, like it feels very forced, right? That's the vibes I'm getting. It was a very forced buff on her. So, I guess rejoice, Melt fans, anyway, because you got something, but yeah. Now, again, I say this every time. If they give her that nice MP buff, she will be EX for sure. It's the same thing I said on a Reshkigel as well. and then it happened. So don't lose hope. Yes, she can absolutely still be completely broken at some point. And even as is, she's completely fine, very solid, no worries, just a very good single target DPS. But if that ever happens someday, you know, probably expect to see her in the EX tier. But with this, I'll just keep her an A+. So again, just a weird but very forced feeling. Now, ooh, this one though. Kingprotea, another buff to her skills. Very interesting. So, they buffed the attack buff she has, the monster strength for 3 turns. So again, let's just take a look at this buff itself, which is right here. I mean, it was obviously still an okay skill. It was never amazing, but 40% attack for 3 turns and a 5-turn cooldown was never terrible. Of the ones of this particular skill, it was definitely the best one for sure. But now, again, with all of these other ones, they kept the old effects the same, including cooldowns, and they added stuff. So what did they add to this one? Well, they added MP damage, which is based on how many growth stacks she has. Now, if you don't know how she works, a quick reminder. Her first skill gives her a timer buff for 10 turns on a 10-turn cooldown. Every turn, she gets 1 stack of growth, which increases her max HP, which you can also convert with her second skill for battery, right? And, I guess it doesn't describe with the MP until now, but yeah, you can sketch. This was mainly the use for it: survival and then converting it to battery. But now, just by having them, this doesn't consume them like the second skill. Just by having them, you get MP damage. Now, every growth stacks on max rank will equal 10% MP damage. So, when you think about it, you can have up to 10 stacks, right? So in the best case scenario, you could have a plus 100% MP damage for a turn. Now this, again, this lasts for 3 turns on a 5-turn cooldown, so you won't always have this MP damage up, but considering it doesn't even consume the growth stacks like the second skill does, it's still very easy to just use this skill and just have more damage, basically. So it's not really awkward like the second skill, in my opinion. It's just a bonus. And yes, there is that synergy with Oberon as well, because obviously this is considered MP damage. Even if it scales off of another buff, it is still MP damage, meaning that Oberon's third skill will amplify it even further. So her damage ceiling, honestly, at this point is I don't have the numbers, but it should be very high, needless to say. Now, is she fast? Absolutely not. It's gonna take many turns for you to get there for those amazing numbers, but it's just more damage, I guess, you know? So, I had Kingprotea on A, because she was still able to do buster farming and wasn't a terrible DPS. Now, will I bump her? That's another hard call. I don't know. I'm not sure how impactful this will be yet. It will make her do more damage on farming a little bit for waves 2 and 3 for sure. Not a big difference though, by the way, because that's only 2 stacks at most for farming. And as for DPSing, again, it takes a long while for her to get there. Now, it's not that hard to keep her alive, because with the buff to the first skill as well, she gains like MP damage resistance and more HP, so it's easier to keep her alive for those harder hitting MP turns that you would get from this new buff. I don't know. Would I bump her up? I still don't. It's like what I'm thinking, the same thing with BB as well. With Melt, I wanted to keep her the same, but with Kingprotea, Gao, if you will, I feel like because the buff has good value, she could be here. She could be. Maybe I'll do the same thing as BB. I'm still not 100% on this for either of them. They could both still be where they were on my tier list, or they might be just higher. So for now, I'll place her here. But again, if I revisit the tier list again last year, which I just might, in case, because you guys seem to like them, I'll probably have a more like whatchamacallit, I'm gonna put more thought into it, more research, etc. And at that point we have way more data as well. But for now, I'll give her the A+, okay? I'll give her that. And I do feel like, yes, indeed, Dark, that is more meaningful than Melt for sure. So there you go. I'll give her that for now. And we have one more buff, and yes, SAKURAFACES, as I said, we got Passionlip. the 4-star alter ego. So everyone else was 5 stars. Well, actually, no. Actually, we had Welfare BB. I don't know what I'm talking about. For some reason, I was thinking Summer BB. But yes, we got the OG Passionlip. Yeah, another buff. This is what, 3 buffs now, I think? Yeah, MP and double skill. Okay, so they buffed the first skill, I believe, if I remember correctly here. Yes, it's the good old Booba Valley. So, what did it used to do? On a 5-turn cooldown, you get a pretty okay 1k damage cut for 3 attacks, 5 turns, and then debuff immune 3 times 5 turns, which is very important for the third skill, so you don't stun yourself for 1 turn. So, honestly, it wasn't terrible for sure. It was still an okay defensive skill. I like that it has 2 defensive effects as well, so it's never awkward to use. And again, much like the previous buffs, they didn't change anything with the stuff that already existed. So the cooldown remains the same, the old effects remain the same, but now we got new stuff. So first of all, flat 20% battery. Kind of weird. Wish it was 30. Not sure why it's a flat 20. It should have scaled from 20 to 30 in my opinion based on the rank, but oh well. I guess she can be brute force to farm now when you think about it. So the biggest lip fans out there, rejoice. I guess you can now use her for buster farming as well. It's not going to be pretty because she really needed that 30% to be able to do the better comp. Now you have to run double Oberon, I'm pretty sure, which is obviously not ideal, but you can do it if you want. But the bigger buff, in my opinion, is the fact that she now has a 3-turn buster buff on a 5-turn cooldown. Again, it's only 20%, maybe 30 would have been nicer. One of these should have been 30 for sure, but oh well. They're nice to have, and I like the buster buff because she never had buster up in her kit to begin with, and if you know her, she's full gorilla, including the MP, so having a good uptime buster buff just makes her damage way more solid, because again, you want to keep having different kinds of offensive buffs because they multiply in effect. So having her own buster buff helps. You don't need to get it from like a support now. I mean, if you do, that's fine, but now she has one herself too. Now, let's talk about Lip as well. She was in B+ for my criteria. I remember having a heated argument with some members in my community because I always talk with a lot of other people before I do my tier list. A lot of people wanted to see her in A. I was still not convinced. But now, she's A. She's definitely A. She deserves it. Absolutely. This helps. Her MP is still kind of a noodle even after the buff, but the buster buff is very nice and just makes her damage way more consistent for sure, even if the number itself isn't massive. And again, now she also can farm, like buster farm, even if it's not pretty, it's still worth noting that she can do it. So it's an option. I'll just leave it at that. It is an option. Most likely only the biggest Lip fans out there will be farming with her. I don't think anyone else will really bother. But, you know, for those people, hey, there you go. Enjoy that as a bonus, I guess. So there you go. At least in the case of Lip and Melt, I was sure I was going to move Lip up and Melt. I wasn't going to stay down. I'm still not 100% on the KP and the BB placements. But hey, we will be doing some labbing and whatnot. And by the time I get back to the tier list again, we'll have way more data and experience. So there you go. This is mostly meant to be like a first impressions anyway. And just to give you my thoughts on these buffs. So, yeah, I bet this video will be long anyway, because it's 4 buffs, so apologies if I rambled on for too long. I tried my best, but I think, you know, it is what it is. It just happens. I just keep rambling. But, yeah, those are basically my thoughts of the new buffs. Hopefully I didn't miss out on any, like, obvious new synergies that are possible. That's definitely possible, so I apologize if I did. But, yeah, that'll conclude this episode of Buff Breakdown. This will be up the same day these came out, so hopefully you like it. Expect another one of these next week as well, because we should be getting LB3 recap with some buffs, probably more than one buff as well. So yeah, I'll definitely cover those as well. And if you enjoyed this, please do me a solid. As always, just press the thumbs up button. It really helps out. Again, the algorithm loves it. I love it. Lets me know you like the content as well. Leave a comment, let me know what you think about the buffs. Otherwise, stay tuned, subscribe for more, and yeah, more spicy content on the way. Even if I'm taking it chill, don't worry, there will be spice. So yeah, have a great rest of your day. And a peace out.